Good day, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Executive Insights by Shipping and Freight Resource. Today, I have Kareem Kaffouri, the CEO of Atlas Network, with me. Welcome to the show, Kareem.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and it's a great show, and very honored to be here with you today.
Thank you. So let's dive in. Atlas Network, can you share us the genesis of Atlas Network and how your personal journey has influenced the company's mission to enhance supply chain transparency and efficiency?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. The Atlas Network is a global supply chain solutions company. I started it back in 2005, so coming up on almost 20 years. And the background really comes from my professional background in the realm of the regulatory space. I worked at the Securities and Exchange Commission in the Office of International Affairs. I worked at NASD FINRA in the realm of Sarbanes-Oxley related work. And as a result of those experiences and directly looking at kind of regulation in general, risk mitigation, control matrices, and things of that nature, I decided that this would be something that could be very applicable to other industries or other spaces. I had some relatives and I had some experiences in Asia, and I decided, what better way than to take some of these experiences and transfer them to kind of global supply chain as a whole, procurement process, because I noticed that it was riddled with fraud and a lot of lack of transparency. So that was the genesis of the Atlas Network, to basically provide to small, medium-sized businesses and even larger businesses transparency, visibility, and essentially a very regulated global supply chain solution that could be dependable, reliable, and provide efficiency as well through additional regulatory protocols around the process.
Right, great story. So could you elaborate on some of the technological innovations that you have brought about within Atlas Network in terms of technologies and how it is helping the market?
Sure, absolutely. I think one of the best ways to kind of look at technology is by way of problem solving. We know that technology doesn't just stand alone. There have to be pain points that are in place that you then look to remediate through the use of technology, because technology doesn't exist alone. It's this interaction point between humans and technology that really in the end gives you the best outcome. And so with this in mind, as it related to supply chain and as it related to essentially global procurement and sourcing, there is a lot of breakdowns that exist between communication. And these are between the various entities that exist within the space. So you're talking about the customer, you're talking about the supplier, you're talking about the quality control inspectors, the logistics providers, the customs brokers, and then finally domestic delivery from essentially port to either distribution or to client. There really weren't many effective tools to manage this overarching relationship that kind of crossed these continents and provided a level of transparency. And so with this in mind, we decided to create our own tools. So one of our first true investments was in the building of a large-scale tool, which was called and is still called Atlas Connect. And what we do in this tool, and the outcome of this is giving our customers true transparency, providing efficient outcomes in global supply chain and results, is our own tool called Atlas Connect, which is managing our network of almost 2,000 suppliers globally, thousands of requests, hundreds of clients, millions of products that all basically are facilitated through our own internal system, where we look to basically connect the dots between those players. The requests come in through a cloud-based platform, not through some broken Excel sheets. They're then transmitted to either our international teams or our factory database. that is put in place by different ranking systems as to which are the best factories according to index ranking scores and different internal proprietary mechanisms that we've created around our supplier network. We then manage the entire production with the use of both our teams and also different technological benchmarks that are put into our system to ensure that different fail points are looked after and different key benchmarks are hit. When productions are all completed, we then have quality control processes that come into place, third-party inspections and attestation, finally then leading to logistics to ship the goods out effectively, bring them over, and then finally delivery. And we facilitate this through our own technology platform. We found it to be so successful for ourselves that we even created a different company, a spin-off company called My Global Crosswalk, which lives at My Global Crosswalk, which is an SAS system similar to like a Salesforce, where small to medium businesses can also use a similar kind of a tool to help them to organize and regulate their own supply chains. So we're working within this space to internally improve our processes as a mass production supply chain solutions company, but at the same time for the space, for the industry at large too, through some of these other products that we're looking to develop and further develop with new tech that's coming online in the realm of AI and natural language processing and machine learning and other things too. So we're consistently interested in this space and looking to develop as much as we can.
Great, very interesting innovations there. But how do you eventually balance those innovations with the core values of your organization? I mean, sometimes in these cases, there could be conflicts between innovation and values. But in your case, how are you balancing those?
Well, I think the reality of it is that we always have put the values first, and that's the heart of what we do. And the values for us are to bring visibility, efficiency, transparency to our customers. And we always have the same kind of three-part mechanism to what we do at Atlas, which is pick the right supplier, eyes and ears on the ground, or visibility and transparency around productions, and third-party attestation. And anything that we can do that basically is in the realm of tech to either enhance, streamline, or facilitate these key values that in the end of the day provides the best outcome for our customers is where our interests lie. So we're not in the realm of just producing tech for the sake of producing tech. We're actually in the realm of here is the problem sets that exist in this space. This is how it's been done, or we've done it manually for quite a long period of time. And here's how tech can make us all more efficient towards remediating those problems and making sure that those core values are facilitated in the best way and scale in the best way for our customers at large. So I think to your question, it's never been a balancing act for us because it's always been the core values first, and then the tech that can then facilitate and streamline and further support those core values where maybe, humans may fall a little bit to the wayside, and tech, especially around ongoing tasks can streamline and make things more efficient.
So it's more a question of priorities than balancing, in this case, and you're prioritizing your values. And you spoke about getting the right supplier. What are some of your sort of factors involved in qualitative or quantitative factors involved in selecting? How do you make sure that you are selecting the right supplier?
Well, it's both of those things, quantitative and qualitative. And what we've done is we've basically created an index rating score system within our platforms and within our company that helps us to manage some of this. Obviously, there have to be inputs to drive this, but let's talk about some of the quantitative and some of the qualitative factors, right? So when it comes to quantitative factors, these are going to be things such as years in business, percentage allocation of exports globally to what markets, different kinds of accreditations, numbers of accreditations that they may have, different ISO certifications and so forth. years of business, numbers of employees. These are all different aspects that are important to understand kind of the scale of a business, the depth of their business, what markets they serve, and how they essentially exist and operate. Outside of that, on the qualitative factors, this is where you're measuring things such as professionalism with regards to their proposals and how they put things together and present materials, timeliness with regards to their actual productions that they are facilitating historically, responsiveness with regards to when you have questions around productions or pricing or technologies they're using and so forth. So, these are some of the basic kinds of elements that pull together to give you a good supplier experience and give you additional levels of visibility as to what this supplier is in terms of kind of facts and figures and numbers and data, and then how they behave. Because it's this combination of both of these things that really gives you the best outcome. To just think about that a supplier looks good on paper, but they are bad actors. They don't have the morality or they don't have the good behavior to go along with their kind of accolades, is just looking at only 50% of the equation. And we've seen that through time. We've seen, hey, this is a great supplier that's worked with X, Y, and Z huge companies and so forth. But when it comes to the behavior and the conduct, the qualitative factors, they fall very, very short. So in the end, what does it matter if your outcome is going to be terrible, or you're going to be delayed, or you're not going to be able to interact appropriately with your supply chain if one half of the equation isn't there? So you have to look at both sides, and very much equally qualitative and quantitative, to really get a full perspective and viewpoint of the supplier relationship.
Interesting point. So you spoke about some market areas. Which area within market or within verticals do you see as a good growth area for Atlas Network or for the industry as a whole?
The reality of this is really any industry that has true breakdown and supply chain breakdown. So as much as I don't really like to kind of revisit the past that we've dealt with, but during the pandemic, for example, we had experience in working with different kinds of PPM, different kinds of PPE, different kinds of products such as that, because we had those kinds of clients in the past. We have a commodities group, a textiles group, an innovation group. So when there were breakdowns in that part of the supply chain, we were able to assist in an area that was not outside of our scope or function. For us as an organization, it has always been about where we can provide the most service. And as long as the formula was the same, which was, again, being able to have the right suppliers, eyes and ears on the ground, and third-party attestation, the actual products themselves were kind of a second thought. We just had to be able to service appropriately what was being asked for and understand where the breakdown was and how we could provide a more efficient solution. A significant amount of our business does come from the realm of packaging these days. We do a lot with regards to the food and beverage industry, and specifically spirits industry, which had a major breakdown for a long period of time because it's a complicated business. You're dealing with very fragile materials and substrates such as glass and other materials such as aluminum that have a large scale sort of swing, peaks and valleys. And the opportunities to do this correctly versus incorrectly are quite vast, because many brands, especially small to mid-sized brands, were going out of business because they were not able to get proper supply chain relationships that were able to facilitate their needs in the timeframes they needed them in order to have proper sales cycles and succeed as businesses. So this was a big opportunity for us, and we've taken advantage of that over the last, I'd call it 8 to 10 years, where a significant amount of our business comes from there. However, there really is no space or product through the years that we have not worked within or touched. And some of these products can be a lot more fragile, especially if you're doing things, let's say, for baby products or children, or even things, as I said, food and beverage, which need to have different kinds of FDA standards, things of that nature. So as long as you're really ticking and tying, turning over all the appropriate stones and facilitating, as I said, a mechanism of the right supplier, having full transparency on the ground and having audit protocols, you really can have a good outcome regardless of the product. So it's not so much that we're saying Atlas needs to focus on this, or this industry. It's more so that Atlas needs to keep focusing on doing things according to proper protocols for procurement and supply chain management. And as long as we do that, we will have a good outcome.
Nice. So you also mentioned earlier about having a hands-on approach or ear to the ground. How has that approach impacted the success of your operation? How instrumental has it been?
It's absolutely critical. It's absolutely critical, and it is one of the biggest kind of value propositions that we offer to any company.
And that is in spite of the technological things also, because a lot of the times those two don't go hand in hand, because once technology is there, people tend to forget that part of the business to say, okay, you don't need that because tech handles.
They have to go hand in hand now. There will come a time in the future where there will still be the human technology interaction around the oversight / babysitting part of manufacturing, because we're going to have even more accelerated cameras and video and sort of outputs and ways to screen for issues that may or may not exist. And some of those things are coming online, but you still need to have the human interaction to ensure that the productions are going the way they need to, that they're meeting timeframes and standards. It kind of comes back to that conversation again, the difference between the quantitative and the qualitative, right? You could have the best technology in the world and everything else, but if a supplier is not acting properly or has bad behavior or other things that are more human characteristics, then you'll still have a bad outcome, regardless of how good their automated QC process may be. So to have kind of on the ground oversight and management is very critical, although the role is shifting, right? The role is shifting away from the person who's looking at things piece by piece by piece and saying, this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad, where tech takes the place of that. But still, you need to be able to then disseminate those results. You need to be able to communicate that information. You need to be able to then connect the dots on then what then happens with that information and that data and those outcomes. And there's still a human interaction and interplay there. So I do believe that, again, that technology and the human interaction will continue to operate in just different ways and different balancing points and different focal points regarding the equation. But the equivalent to what we do, a brand would have to open an office overseas, employ staff, and basically be a part of the manufacturing or sourcing process, all of which we do for them. So we are their third-party outsourced supply chain management. And that's a very critical role. And even if there's a slight margin on the goods, because that's how we get facilitated in that way, we basically are a service provider, it's worthwhile, because the alternative would be for them to build an entire infrastructure, employ individuals, manage those individuals, and then take on a lot of those risks, some of which they may be suited to take on, or some of which they may not be fully suited or have the breadth or depth to facilitate.
So sustainability has been a buzzword, and very important buzzword actually around this, around supply chain. And there's always this, always the concern about logistics and distribution and sustainability. So how do you ensure that your systems or solutions remain sustainable within this logistics industry? Because it's a big concern of shipping emissions and logistics emissions and stuff.
Sure. First and foremost, we look to facilitate agreements with our suppliers that are taking some of these aspects into consideration. And we are always getting an idea from these suppliers as to what their initiatives are around being more green and how they are helping with kind of the global, sustainability initiatives. And part of that, has shifted according to the government as well, where we essentially see places like in China that closed down thousands and thousands of suppliers that were using coal, or forcefully pushed them to use electric instead of coal-based production and furnaces and things of that nature. At the same time too, we are in the realm of innovation when it comes to products. And with this in mind, we're consistently looking at new materials to replace things like plastics. When it comes to things like glass, we're looking at kind of a full circle as far as the manufacturing process, where products can basically be recycled and then can be used again. And you essentially have a full circle type of process here to reduce waste and use the materials that are at your discretion. I don't think we're necessarily there yet with regards to things such as fuel versus alternative energy sources for global seafaring transport. I think that we will get there, and I know that there are initiatives that are being made to essentially be able to develop more and more alternative energies to be able to assist with that sort of long boat voyage, if you want to say, when you're doing cross border or cross ocean transit. We're not there yet, but anywhere where we can be a part of the solution, we're always going to look to be a part of that solution. And that comes from both the supplier side, that comes from the customer side, the things that they are requiring or requesting, different kinds of products, and really the industry at large. So we're very reactive to the space, and where we can be, we try to be proactive too.
That's great news indeed. So, possibly the last question: what are the current trends that you see in supply chain nowadays, and how is your network positioned to help clients navigate these trends? Because trends in supply chain are changing very often, and customers have to have their finger on the pulse. How are you helping customers with that?
Correct. I was going to talk about it in terms of just the industry in general, and then how it relates to the customer. But the key is everyone is trying to understand artificial intelligence right now, and everyone is trying to essentially put their finger on the pulse of what that's going to mean and how it could, let's say, impact the supply chain space with regards to areas of machine learning and natural language processing and so forth. But my main focus and thought process is around the way that this AI is going to be developed and then presented to the market so that it can benefit not just industry but also customers. And we talk about things such as Alan Turing, father of the computer, who basically said that as long as machines are infallible, they'll never be intelligent. And I think that this is an important point, because it's sometimes in the mistakes that are made that we end up having the best outcome. Things such as the discovery of penicillin, right, by Alexander Fleming, and so on, by accident, huge medical breakthroughs and other things in our society that essentially have allowed us to advance as people, where the intelligence came from making mistakes. So I think that there is this balancing act that's going to happen within supply chain, where we continue to advance and define what is truly intelligence, and at the same time be very respectful of what the human being's role is in this, and that, in the end, the outcomes for customers and humans and the industry are all taken into account. And this is going to be kind of what I feel the next 2, 5, 10 years are going to be about in the realm of supply chain, as everyone is scrambling to sort of figure out the best way to implement tech and what's the role of the human being in there, and in the end, need to fully take into consideration not just the dollars and cents of it or how things become more cost effective or efficient, but really will we get the best outcome for the client, the customer in the end. And that's where we come back to that idea that you talked about earlier, which is what leads us here at Atlas. And for us, it's those core values. And I always say to my teams overseas and everyone else that we only exist to support the needs of our customers. We only exist for that reason. And anything else other than that is kind of a secondary thought. Whether it's tech or it's the needs of the supplier or it's global issues at hand or otherwise, we need to make sure that the outcome is proper for the customer. Otherwise, we're not a solutions company anymore. We're just a push the buttons company. And that's not what I think that we want to be or are looking to be. One other thing to this point that I would like to say is that, I don't know if you know this, but we are the first US-based verified supplier of Alibaba. And under that role, we're seeing some very, very significant advancements in the realm of supply chain too, that Alibaba is undertaking, and we being in this unique role and some partnership with Alibaba are able to see some of these developments that are coming online too. That are going to really impact the space as well. So I'm quite excited about that relationship. And I think that that'll also be a part of the way that we're looking at the needs of the customer in the future, the needs of the suppliers in the future, and so on through this ongoing relationship that we have with Alibaba.
Great. Very inspirational, I must say. And Karim, thank you very much for your time, and wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and wish all the best to Atlas Network.
Thank you so much. It's been a great show, and again, can't thank you enough for the time, and really hope that we can do this again soon.